Hello and welcome to episode 375 of the Mark and Me podcast. As always, I'm your host Mark. Now joining me on today's episode is Sam McTrusty. Yes, the singer and guitarist from the amazing band Twin Atlantic. This is a band that I've wanted on Mark and Me for years, so I'm absolutely thrilled that I'm here today to share this interview with you all. Now, this band have been up there with sort of Hell is for Heroes, Idlewild, Biffy Clyro, 100 Reasons, Reuben. As all the bands that kind of shaped the bands that I listen to today, they really did change my life. I'm so grateful for Twin Atlantic. I've seen them so many times and I've been extremely lucky to get hold of an advance copy of their new album. The new album is called Meltdown, and as you're listening to this, it's literally just a few days away. And when it comes out, you're going to be blown away. It's so fucking good, and it really deserves your time. But before you listen to that album, and before we get totally excited by an album that isn't quite out yet, let's get back to today's interview, because my God, I love this. It's so open, it's so honest, and he's just an unbelievable human being. So, here's me and Sam from Twin Atlantic talking all things music.
Well, Sam, I appreciate your time a lot, and what I do with all guests that come on the podcast is I always like to take it right back to the very start, so it doesn't matter what career you've had or what you do. I always like to know when you're a kid what that first album was that maybe you saved up your pocket money for, or was given by a friend or a relative that made you absolutely love music.
It's a good question. Worded slightly differently from the norm. Because my first ever album that I technically owned, my dad took me and my sister into an HMV. I mean, I must have been 6 or 7 years old or something like that. And my sister's 2 years older than me, so 2 years is a lot more wisdom at that age, I have to say. He said, "Oh, you could pick any record you want, and we'll get it," which is a really cool thing that he did, to be honest. For such a young age. My sister picked Whitney Houston's album that was at the time. And
like everybody in the whole world at that point.
I mean, she was shifting a few units, so I don't know whether she just panicked and picked it off the main display. And I picked Jimmy Nail's album.
Wow.
I have no idea why I did that. I guess I maybe recognised him from TV.
I reckon he only had one album as well. I might be wrong. There might be a whole anthology worth of music, but I don't remember many albums with his face on.
Oh, me neither. I don't know if I ever listened to the album either. But I just a daft story that I have to tell whenever, because it's God's honest truth is what happened. And then my dad at the time shared like a kind of townhouse thing with his mate. And that's where we kept these albums, was offset at my dad's house. And his house got burglarized, hard word for a Scottish person to say. And the albums got stolen.
That poor bastard.
But to give you an actual direct answer, probably the first album I would say that I bought with my own money, I went to the record shop on my own and everything, was Enema of the State, like 182.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Because I was in my first year at high school when that record came out, and I was just the exact right personality type to be spoon-fed Californian kind of pop punk music, and that whole culture just spoke to my adolescence at the time. So yeah, kind of.
It's a hell of a starting point. I mean, there was an influx of bands, wasn't there? You had sort of Sum 41, Offspring, Green Day, all these amazing bands that came through. And I remember those days, MTV played music, and you'd stick on MTV at any point of the day, and you'd have, What's My Age Again or Green Day, and they were the good times. I remember just always falling in love with these incredible American bands and just wanting to have the same clothes as them and their haircuts and just be obsessed with like, that's how cool a band can be.
Well, it's mad, man. It honestly like shaped the rest of my adult life so far. Was falling into that kind of. At the time, I felt like it was a kind of subculture, and I discovered this whole other world. But really, it was like mainstream at this point. Um, but yeah, it got me into like tattoos and graffiti culture and skating, which kind of spent a large part of my kind of mid-teens obsessing over all those things and watching like a friend of mine would have like a tour documentary on like VHS or something, and I'd watch that until it broke with all these different bands. That the one thing I would say about Blink was that they were a bit more of a gateway for me into like other punk music
Yeah.
because they were slightly, I guess they were like Green Day were probably the first kind of band to cross over, but Blink kind of still had that shitty punk rock roots thing going on. Although they obviously were kind of chart topping band, they were definitely a gateway for me into like listening to heavier or more aggressive kind of punk music.
So what about live music? Because at the age of, I can't remember if I was 12 or 13, but in Wolverhampton, my parents dropped me off. I went to see Green Day, and it was the first gig that kind of blew my mind and made me realise that the music that you had at home on your tape or CD could be performed live, and it blew my mind. I was like, there's 3 people on that stage at that point making all that noise, and it just blew me away. And I wondered, do you remember a first gig? Hopefully it's not Jimmy Nail, but was there a band that you saw or an artist live that you remember was, made you want to be in a band or just blew you away?
Well, I've got like similar to the album, I've got kind of two answers to this because the first time I saw live music, my gran took me and my sister to George Square in Glasgow for like a kind of, I think it was a free gig. I think it was like a radio, maybe like Clyde One or something like that in Glasgow had a radio event, and
My lord.
Boyzone
What I
played.
respect already about you, my friend, is that you're being very honest. So loads of bands come on and they're like, oh yeah, I went to see Tool and Metallica and Green Day and Pearl Jam and Nirvana. But you're like, yep, Jimmy Nail. Like, I'll admit it.
The
And
thing
now
is that
Boyzone.
these things definitely shaped my, like I have a huge rooting in pop structured music. Like I can't help it. I just, especially when I go to write songs, I really lean into that. Um, like I grew up, I would say, obviously I grew up with an older sister, so I was forced to like do dance routines to Spice Girls and no choice. Um, so
Your
yeah, we
sister's
went.
going to put them out one day. There's going to be videos on Instagram of you dancing to Two Become One.
Thankfully, pre-phone era, there wasn't necessarily many camcorders in the McDonald's, thank God. But it's quite a weird memory, but it's like we went to this show, we went to this free show, and they were staying at a hotel which was on this square in Glasgow, and it was so surreal. I really vividly remember they were like hanging out the hotel window and like waving to fans, and all the fans were screaming and all this stuff, like a kind of Michael Jackson early 90s esque thing that I had grown up seeing. So I remember being like, oh my God, these guys are like religious figures. Look at how people are reacting to them. So quite a weird entry into music, but then the first ever like concert or gig that I went to out of my own choice again was Blink 182. We're playing in Glasgow, and I went with our bass player Ross and his little sister Lucy, who's now my tour manager. We went to that show, and it had the exact same effect on me as you described with Green Day. It just almost stopped my whole world, and I just from that point onwards was like, oh my God, how do I do more of this? And in any way, this needs to be life now for me.
Was that kind of your vision then? Were you kind of like, this is all I'm going to do? I don't want to go and work in an office. I don't want to do a 9 to 5. Did you kind of at school or college getting in any bands, or was it not until Twin Atlantic that you kind of really took music seriously?
Well, I was in another band before Twin Atlantic, called Arca Felix, and it was like two pals from school, a guy I met randomly in a queue to a funeral for a friend show in the Barrowlands. We just, I think I was like telling someone next to me, like, yeah, I'm in a band now, but we don't have a bass player. We need to get a bass player. And this voice from over here was like, I play bass, mate. I'll be in your band.
So easy to make happen.
Couldn't believe it. And funny enough, that guy's called Bruce Rintoul. And he then went on to become like a producer, uh, mixing engineer. And we've worked with him through the years, in the early years, making demos and his mum's garage. And
It's a small world, isn't it, for you guys?
it's wild, man. Honestly, I love Glasgow music scene for these little stories. Um, but I've forgotten the question because I'm all over the
I
map.
think it was that you said that. I was wondering, was it always going to be just music for you? Were you just always going to be, that's the life I want. I'm not prepared to kind of put it on the back burner and go and do a 9 till 5.
You've got you. Well, in my deep recesses of my mind, the answer to that is yes. But up front, being where I was from and the kind of family up, like I don't really have any musicians in my family. My uncle um plays guitar and was in a band back when he was in uni and stuff, but no one really. That was kind of it. So I never really thought it was a realistic option, but deep down in my core, it's what I really, really wanted. Um, right from when I saw the reaction that Boyzone got at that hotel window. um, but no, I went to art school, and I went to Glasgow School of Art for a couple of years, and I was pursuing like a serious career, and not a million miles removed from music in terms of risk and creativity and things like that. But that was my focus when I came out of high school, because I got really encouraged by my teachers to push for that kind of. I guess they saw something in my work or ideas or something like that, and they really pushed me. It was cool. I kind of learned a lot of creative thinking. I don't know, structure or like different ways to express yourself and things like that for from the first couple of years of the training I got at art school. So it ended up helping me with songwriting and pulling, because I've always been like the kind of art direction has come from me for the band's artwork and stuff like that. So it ended up helping my music career anyway.
It's quite a great story with Twin Atlantic, because I didn't realise with dates and everything that it was 2006 that you guys formed, which is not too far off 20 years, which blows my mind. And I've seen you so many. I've seen you so many times over the last kind of probably 12 or 13 years. But within a couple of years, playing with bands like Biffy Clyro, Smashing Pumpkins, they're the bands that shaped. I'm talking about the bands that I first loved. Biffy Clyro, I've been there since Black and Sky. Smashing Pumpkins was the band I saw on MTV.
Yeah.
There must have been moments within the first couple of years of your career that you must have just been like pinching yourself, like, is this really happening? Like, am I actually on stage right now warming up for the Smashing Pumpkins,
Well, yeah, I really would. And you've done proper research on us to know 2006, because that's like a secret. We don't try and keep it a secret, but just because we had a different lineup back then. We were a three-piece, had a different drummer. So we always just kind of say 2007, because that's when the four original members can put it. But man, I remember getting the calls for both of those shows that you were mentioning there. Like, we used to rehearse basically 5 days a week at our old drummer Craig's mum and dad's house. They had this strange room in the middle of the way their house was configured. It was maybe like 2.5 meters squared room or something like that. and Craig, that's where his drums were set up for him to like learn and just practice and things. And we just rehearsed in there every day, and we kind of made it known to like local people in Glasgow. This is what we were doing, because we didn't really have any good songs or anything like that yet, but we just wanted people to know how serious we were taking it. And the Biffy Clyro tour came about because the promoter, I guess, paid attention to us saying like, any show anywhere, we're good to go. We do this every day. It's like we've made it full time. And their support band pulled out of a show in Inverness like on the day, and we're from Scotland. We kind of play rock. We tried to play rock music at this point, and we just got the call. So it was like a total whirlwind going up the road to Inverness. We played the show to like roughly 1,000 people, and just it didn't feel real, man. And then we like get taken into Biffy's dressing room to meet the guys. We were so shy and polite, and like they're like heroes of mine. I'm like you, them, and
dude, look at my tattoo on my arm. That's Simon Neil.
oh, you've got his autograph? No
Yeah,
way.
he came on for episode 300. So he is my dream guest. Like when I started this podcast, Simon Neil for me is the best British songwriter of my generation.
Yeah, I mean, like, but Simon, there's so many. Like our band wouldn't exist, like absolute guarantee, because seeing people like Ben, James, and Simon playing like heavy rock music with big choruses and getting to tour the world, that's what made me go like, okay, shit, this is maybe possible. Like these guys are doing it. I sound like them. I look like them. We have the same influences. I love I was obsessed with their band. And I know you can hear that obviously in our earlier music. But yeah, that's I genuinely remember coming out of the dressing room after meeting them, and I was like shaking. You know what I mean? Like those girls again, screaming at Boyzone from their hotel. That's what I wanted to do.
And now look at them, like they've just headlined Download Festival a couple of times. They're just, for me, the most normal, down to earth, kindest guys out there, and they have no idea just how good they are. And that's the most humble way you can see them, and it's amazing because Simon's just like, yeah, we write some nice songs. I'm like, dude, you've written some of the biggest anthems ever.
He has, man. It's like there's a genius at work there, in my opinion, with Simon, and there's voicing of a lot of his riffs and the time signatures, even the kind of the cadence of his lyrics over the music and stuff is really, really unique. And you're right, they're just the nicest guys ever, man. They kind of took us on, well, not took us on, but they took us under their wing, and schooled us on like in a typically Scottish fashion, which is funny. They'd be like, "What the fuck is that amp you're using there, wee man? Like, what is that?" You know, they would definitely gave us tough love in the first couple of years of knowing them, and then I've gone on to be on the golf course with the twins, and Simon came up to my like tenement flat to watch an Old Firm game one year. We ordered Domino's pizza and he drank tea, and I was just like, "Why are you in my house right now, man? This is..."
I want to scream like one of the Boyzone girls, but I can't.
He knows that too. I've told him all this stuff, and which obviously he's so bashful, man, about it, and says, "Ah, you're making me feel old," because I'm like, "Man, without you, our band wouldn't exist and everything." So I feel quite lucky that I got to tell in a band how much they meant to us. But then the Smashing Pumpkins thing, I remember my manager at the time phoning us, and our manager was was someone that Barry went to school with, Amy Dunsmuir. She's now gone on to have a career in music management too, after working with our band. So it was all quite surreal because she was kind of faking it and we were faking it, and she called us up to be like, "What are you doing?" Or teased it. She was like, "Well, you're Smashing Pumpkins," and I remember having the kind of comedy, the thing you would expect you would do if you won the lottery. I
Yeah.
did that. I did that reaction down the phone. Yeah, so surreal, man, and a real big kind of launching pad for us to be taken then a bit more seriously in the music industry in the UK because we were able to say, yeah, we've played with Smashing Pumpkins and toured with Biffy Clyro, so it's a pretty good start.
I feel like I've wasted 7 years doing this podcast when I should have just been friends with you. And then everyone that's hung out with you or had association or a sister or a friend's brother, they go on to massive things. So I should have just met you 10 years ago and just hung around with you. And now I'll probably be the Joe Rogan podcast making millions.
That trajectory begins now.
Wow.
This
Uh,
fluky.
it blows my mind how long you've had in the music industry. I'm not trying to make you feel old, but the fact that you are still here and you're still doing it, 18 years later, with new music on the way. I know it's an obvious question, but what is it that's in you that still makes you as hungry as probably those days that you wanted to be the support stop for Biffy with 1,000 people? You still seem to be grounded and still have that same passion that you had back then.
Firstly, that's a massive compliment, by the way, to be told that. So thank you, because it's almost I don't know whether that's the thing that I like to kind of hang my hat on, is that like I arguably care more now than I did in the beginning. It's been a snowball effect. Um, and what is it? I have no idea. Insanity, maybe delusion.
What is it? Be honest. Is it that there's no other option for you? It's all or
Mm.
nothing. It is Twin Atlantic. That's your blood. That's your life. That's your story behind everything. It must feel like you wouldn't want to throw it all away tomorrow and just think, well, we had a good run, and now I'm going to go and work in Subway.
No, I mean, no, for sure. It's definitely like I don't know if it's from the beginning. I just felt like it was impossible. Like I was touching on, and we're just such massive underdogs because of, I guess, that me singing in my own accent and playing the brand of rock music that we play. Excuse me. And being where we were from, it was almost like everything was stacked against us. And whenever we kind of gained an inch on, like, you know, making fans in a certain town or getting to go to a new city and then getting to tour in Europe and signing our first record deal, it really did feel like we were just inchworming our way forward. We got to enjoy the feeling of like success. You know what I mean? We got to like really soak in and feel like we were earning it. And I don't know whether that became like addictive or something. Like it became quite like a satisfying feeling, like chipping away at it and working away at it for all these years. Just, I guess, installed a bit of respect for the craft of songwriting and having fans. It wasn't like 2 3 months and then we were playing to like 300 people in London or something. It like took us 3 or 4 years to get to that point. And I guess I just fell in love with the whole process of.
But maybe that's why. And I know we've mentioned Biffy Clyro, but bands like Idlewild, bands that I really love that have come through, like Headers for Heroes, 100 Reasons. They're bands that have had longevity. Thrice one of my favourite bands ever because they've stuck at it. It's not an overnight success. You don't just sign a record deal and before you know it, you're multimillionaires and you're headlining Reading and Leeds. You have seen that kind of, okay, we're on the smallest stage at 12 o'clock on the Saturday, but the year after we're going to try and build our way up. And all the bands I've mentioned today have had that kind of slow burn, but then you've worked for it, so no one can ever say, oh yeah, well they just sold out, or they were fed silver spoons. You've all put the graft in, and I think that's why I'm so proud of seeing Simon Neil headline Download, or 100 Reasons still announcing anniversary shows and all this, because they've put the graft in at the start, and I think that's why you're now still here, being able to talk about new music and touring and doing what you love.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, comes more kind of it's like it's like an emotional attachment as opposed to that effort as well. And you're right, it's like fully my whole identity has been in this band. I've done it since I was 18, I guess. I only started playing the guitar when I was 17, so it's literally been like my whole adult mind has been dedicated to the craft of this. And then, like, if truth be told, there's another kind of side to it, which is like songwriting has been like a massive form of like self therapy or some. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, heard it. And I've just always kind of leaned on that crutch at the different sort of pillars of adulthood to kind of express myself or get things off my chest or be silly when you're not really not allowed to be, but you know what I mean, like still be childlike when you felt that itch or need to be. And it's been basically something that I've needed, but something that I've also like wanted to do, and that's been like the kind of perfect cocktail to make it last that long, I think.
Do you kind of look at your music as kind of like diary entries for moments of your life that you can look back at and kind of say, well, this album, I remember going through depression, or I felt down, or I didn't know where I wanted to be, or this is about being a dad, or this has been about falling in love again. Does it look back at as like these timestamps that you can then look back at instead of being recorded or documents printed up from a counselling session? Is it your moments in life that have stood at a place that needed to be told?
Yeah, definitely. Like 100%. That is how I look back on the records and the songs. The only difference, the word this, it like sometimes it's been like super coded. You know what I mean? They buried, and I've like made a song about like a relationship, like a love story type of song, the classic songwriting tool. But then I've had like you know what I mean, like in between the lines, really, it was about some aggro I was having with like a friend or like a family relative, or a reaction to like a political situation that's going on, or I've always kind of like buried it and hidden it. And I don't know, again, if that's maybe the kind of 2 or 3 years kind of training I had in like fine art and history of art and stuff like that, that is what the greats did in painting. It was always kind of like hidden messages and subtleties. Like once you break the code and it's revealed, it's right there in front of you. But I've kind of treated writing songs the same way that my kind of creative thinking was trained, like shaped a little bit from painting. And then some of it's just the way that the record sounds. It could just be like a feeling or a mood. And sometimes the words kind of didn't really matter, and they're ridiculous words because just for fun. But like the mood or the tone of the song is the thing that kind of captured that timestamp thing that you were describing there.
It's exciting because as we're sitting here now, people have got a bit of a flavour of the new stuff with Get Out, but obviously, as we're sitting here, the world hasn't heard the new album, and I wondered, with Meltdown and people getting to hear this, not too long from listening to this interview, are you nervous? Are you excited? Are you kind of not sure what to do because you've probably sat on this music for a while and you just want to get out there and play the songs and hit that publish button so people can like hear these new songs? Because it must feel quite frustrating when you've finished, it's all produced, it's edited, it's recorded, it's mastered down. I don't know, with an episode, once I've interviewed someone, I just want to get it out there for the world to listen to. I don't want to be sat on it, so it must be quite tough if you've had to wait a while.
Yeah, it is if you if you dwell on it, I suppose I must just be like a hardened veteran at this point because I'm I'm obviously excited for people to hear it, and it's it's and this album in particular is I just know it's good as well. I just know it's really good. Um, so there's like a big kind of confidence factor from our side. Because we like our last couple of albums were made under quite confusing circumstances, and that kind of informed the music and the decision making. And uh, I love those albums, but they've got great moments on them. But this album is like a great album, the whole thing together, plus the songs individually. Um, so I feel really confident, and I've almost like switched off to the fact that it's coming out because I feel like I've already achieved what we set out to do with it. um, so if people, this is quite a silly take, but like if people don't even listen to it, I'm kind of like, well, I know we did a good job, so I'm like able to like now kind of switch off from it. Not the best thing to say when you're trying to promote an album, but the thing that's different about this one is, and because you mentioned the recording and the edit and stuff like that, like I engineered and produced the record and edited it all for the first time. So like it's got even like a deeper imprint on it than any of the other Twin albums before. Because bands get to this point with their albums like it's our most personal album ever, or it's our heaviest thing, or it's got our biggest sing along moments. And that's not really a thing for me on this. This is the first album I put on my own, engineered on my own. Like my DNA is just all over the thing. You know what I mean?
I literally had the same conversation with Frank Turner a couple of weeks ago. His most recent album, he's literally stood there and said I was demoing it and it was sounding really good at demo stage. And I thought, why do I want to spend all this money on getting a producer or editor in now, or sound engineer, when I can now finish the job myself? And it makes it such a more personal experience and overall project because it's your hands that are getting dirty. It's you choosing which takes to do and polishing which editing, sound waves and everything, and piecing it all together. And I think it's so brave and so ambitious, but it's yours now. Like, it's no one else's. There isn't that extra member in the band saying, well, actually, I think, we could make another chorus here, or let's try and make this sound a bit more radio friendly. It's like, it's all in your hands. And that, I'm not trying to scare you, but it's amazing, isn't it, that you've got that control?
It's, I mean, this is probably like a full walking to like a cliff edge, not knowing that it's there. But I honestly don't feel any pressure at all. I just feel like, I think maybe it's because we've kind of, for the first time in our band's like sonic history, revisited something that we tried before, because we've always like, made a certain type, we've tried to make a certain type of record, done it to death, including the like I do a lot of like research of listening to other artists or artists who would say what influenced them to get the album that maybe we were shooting for. So I go really, really, really deep into it. Okay, people maybe only hear like 10 or 12 kind of alternative pop rock songs at the end of it, but the the tip of the iceberg meme or whatever is what's kind of gone into it. So I would kind of sicken myself of a particular kind of branch of rock music. So then when it came to make another record, I wasn't really thinking about, right, let's keep our fans on our toes, or we will look back and have this career of diverse albums. I was literally just, okay, I've done that. Let's try this one. Let's try that one. So this is the first time that we've kind of gone back to a branch that we've walked down before. And I think there's like a confidence that comes with that because I know we know what we're doing. And we've got a kind of tried and tested track record with the big kind of obnoxious rock guitars and melody wherever melody's possible, like melody to the point of it's a bit ludicrous, but
I love how laid back you are and in control of your kind of nerves or anxiety or stress. Like, I wish I had that much control. Like, yeah, I've got a new album coming out. If people listen to it, that'd be great. But if not, it's okay. And I produced the whole thing myself for the first go. And yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm like, dude, this is huge. Like,
I do. I'm not trying. Like, trust me, man. I'm not like a cool, laid back person.
no, but
Like,
it's just natural. And I can see that from talking to you today. I'm not saying like you're putting on a front. It's not a mask you're wearing. It's just, I'm very jealous because you're very composed. It's amazing.
well, again, thank you, man. I think it's just I've been doing it a long time, and I'm able to identify. I think when something's good as well. Like I can back my own taste, and but just from years of learning. Do you know what I mean? Like the heart of public opinion, or from even within our own fan group, um, and like yeah, I don't know. I don't know why I'm so laid back about it. I think maybe the kind of turbulence of the COVID years and everything like that.
Maybe you believe in it as well. You know, you're very proud of it. You're excited about it. It's really positive. So I think it's confidence, and that's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. It's not arrogance. It's belief in what you've done.
Well, like a band our size surviving the whole pandemic situation, where everyone knows obviously music was the first thing to shut down, the last thing to come back. We're not a massive band. I mean, we earn like a kind of living wage from what we do, and which is why we put two albums out during the pandemic. Do you know what I mean? It was a realist approach to just keeping our head above water, but anything after that is fun and easy as well. So there's a little bit of what's come before informing how laid back maybe coming across about this.
My final question for you on the new album and everything is, because you were, you know, hands on and recording and engineering it all yourself.
Yeah.
With anybody that's got that control, you know, I talked about Thrice today. Tepe, the guitarist of the band, produced their last album and engineered everything. And I wondered, is it difficult to be able to be the artist that knows that's the final stroke of the brush? Is it hard to know that that track is now finished, because you might be a perfectionist? You might think, oh, I can polish that vocal a bit more, I can make the guitar sound a bit more beefier, or I can make the clean tone of that sound a bit more, have a bit more clarity. Are you quite able to switch off, or do you need someone to be like, dude, it's been 12 hours, leave it now, Sam, like we need to leave this track alone, there's 12 tracks we need to get done here?
I think I might be like a Jekyll and Hyde character because I am both of the people you just. I think I'm two in one because I'm definitely like a maximalist. Like my taste is like I want to be flooded with information when I listen to a record or look at a painting or watch a film. I want it to be too much. That's just like my taste. I want it to be um overwhelming. And so when not necessarily writing a song, but record like definitely not in writing, sorry, but in recording, I know it's finished because I literally can't do any more to it. It's like I come up against like a barrier where the rules of recorded music just there's no more room. So you have to stop. Get to be like our bass player Ross, who's been like my best mate since like the first year of high school, got a pretty good read on me, and he knows he is almost like the tastemaker in the band, and he has a huge influence on carving out space in recordings, or like I'll write a song, but he'll have a really tasteful chord change suggestion that opens up the emotion of the song, or um he like having him as a co-writer and a co-producer is the thing that that's probably honestly like the magic thing in the band is our relationship and how he um, controls me. I mean that in a good way. Like, um, and it's definitely a two-way street. Like I kind of push him to be more, maybe adventurous or confident in his abilities, and so it's quite a good relationship we've got going. But I'm going off on a tangent again, but to answer your question, um,
No, it's important. I think everyone needs that person in life. Otherwise, you're just never going to have any limits or kind of boundaries, and you'll end up just never being able to finalize or complete anything.
yeah, well, sometimes I'm like, Ross is going to tell me that I overdid it. So, or let me take this layer 50 of the guitar off of this and I'll see what he says. Or, but there's definitely, so on the new album as well, we've kind of gone for more of like it was a bit of a joke in the studio because we always have these little one-liners to try and make rules for ourselves when we're making albums. And this one was like, but could you play that at night on an outdoor stage? And I know that's a really simple concept, but we identified some sonic little thread that made to Ross and I, like, because we've played all these festivals for so many years, we've stood and watched the headliner and we've stood and watched the big dog one and like play the globally known songs. And we tried to inject a little bit of that into this album, but in our classic self-deprecating Glaswegian way, like, but you're not going to play that, are you, at night, outdoors with like 30,000 people listening, are you? Like, we would always just kind of like,
Yeah.
you stop ourselves from adding too much. Yeah.
What my final question is today, obviously I'm conscious of time, but everyone gets the same final question, is I make the episodes as personal as I can, even though I'm at episode 350 now. I like the guests to choose the outro song that's played, so it can be any song by any band in the history of music. So I'm putting you on the spot a little bit today. But is there a song that means a lot to you that after this interview is all edited and ready for the world to listen to, it plays out and you... I don't know, there's a reason why I think it comes to your heart and your soul before any other song that I ask.
I don't know. I mean, like, you've got me thinking about Pearl Jam, obviously from the off of our conversation. I don't know why this is my answer, but Just Breathe.
Oh my god, incredible.
I don't have a logical answer for you, Mark, as to why I'm picking that, but I think maybe just the vibe of chatting with you. It's quite it's like a really deep song, but it's quite peaceful feeling, and maybe because I've started my day this way, chatting to you.
Just Breathe is one of my favourite songs ever. The vocals of Eddie Vedder and just that simple guitar by Mike McCready at the start, just that little guitar lick on the acoustic just sounds beautiful. And the way the chorus, I don't know, there's something about Eddie Vedder's voice on that recording that just sounds, when you got your headphones in, it's like he's in the room with you. And it blows my mind that that's even a song. I can't even believe how you'd write that song. So you don't need a justification. You can just say Pearl Jam for me, and I'm like, yeah, that's fine, that's going on. Sam, it's been a genuine pleasure to have you on today. I really appreciate you getting up early, and the listeners don't always know this, but it's very early for you right now. And yeah, there's bands that have come on this podcast that have changed my life in music, and I asked a question to you at the start, you know, bands that you listen to or went to see, and truly, dude, you were one of them. Like I said, Ruben, Headers for Heroes, 100 Reasons, Twin Atlantic, all these bands came along to me and are the reason that I'm doing what I do today, and you are genuinely one of them. So you know, without being like a fanboy, I really appreciate your time.
No, dude, I'm really touched by that, and also the bands that you're rhyming off there. That was like my dream when we started the band, to be added to that lineup of like British real rock bands with integrity. So like, this is the best possible way for me to ever start a day, is to be told there's someone out there holds us in that regard alongside those bands. So thank you, man. It's a pleasure to chat with you.
I will come and see you. You're playing in November, which seems so long away. We've got a big summer ahead and festivals and everything else, but you're playing in Birmingham and it's a Sunday, so I'll come down, I'll come and say hello and come and hear these new songs because I can't wait for it.
Thank you, sir. Well, we'll sort you out.
Awesome. Okay, dude. Well, I hope, I've started your day pretty well now, so I hope it doesn't go downhill. I hope, your kids wake up and you have an amazing day ahead because otherwise, I've set it up to fail. But I hope that, you enjoy the rest of the press, the album goes well, and I'll pass across again before then. They always do. The music industry is smaller than I realise.
Nothing like a preschool run ego boost. Take care, mate. Thanks.
So there it is. There's my interview with me and Sam from Twin Atlantic. Genuinely now, I've done this podcast for 7 years. And I just fucking love these guests. People like Sam that come on and don't put on any false pretense and just be themselves. They're so comfortable in their own skin. They're so open. They're so honest. And by the end of the interview, they feel like a friend. They feel like someone you've known for ages because they've trusted in you. They've shared information that's quite meaningful and deep. And honestly, it's why I do the podcast. So I'm so grateful for Sam for coming on the podcast and giving me his time. If you haven't already checked out the band Twin Atlantic, where the hell have you been? Honestly, one of the best to do it. Go and listen to all their back catalogue on Spotify or Amazon or Apple, or go and buy their music. They're on tour at the end of the year. Go and check them out because you will not regret it. And also, like I said, on the 9th of August, their brand new album, which I've heard already, Meltdown, and it's so good. Go and check it out because it's absolutely awesome. Thanks again for everyone today who's taken the time to listen to the podcast. If you really enjoyed it, why not share it? I say it on each and every episode because some people don't realise, but Mark and Me is literally just me. I edit the episodes, I schedule all the interviews, I do the interviews, I run all the social media. It is literally a one-man team. So all I ask in return for listening to these episodes, which will always be free, is just to share it. You can do that on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, or any way. Just tell someone. It really goes a long way in getting the name out there and more people finding out about the podcast and then investing their time and hopefully falling in love and listening each week to Mark and Me. If you do want to go that little extra, there is a Patreon and the link is on markandme.com. If you're new to that, it's basically like coming up to a bar, ordering a drink and giving a tip at the end of the night to the waitress, but I'm the waitress and the drink is the podcast. If you love these podcasts and you want to just go, yeah, Mark deserves like a little tip, then genuinely you can go on there and for as little as £1 a month and all that money goes right back into the podcast. You get exclusive episodes called The Lost Tapes, which are only available, and those interviews will only be heard for people that support me on Patreon. You get a welcome pack which comes with and there's literally only a couple left, exclusive Mark and Me badge. You get stickers, you get a monthly newsletter, competitions that are exclusive to people on Patreon, and that's my way of saying thank you for supporting me on Patreon. Now, before I go, let's give a big shout out to the sponsor of the podcast, Richer Sounds. As always, guys, if you're looking to treat yourself to a new TV, a Sonos system, a turntable, or anything to do with audio and visual, go on richersounds.com or hit up any of the high street stores and you will not be disappointed. I'll be back, guys, in only a couple of days' time with another brand new episode. So until then, look after yourself, take care, listen to Twin Atlantic, and I'll speak to you all very soon.
Yes, I understand that every life must end. As we sit alone, I know someday we must go on. Oh, I'm a lucky man to count on both hands the ones I love. Some folks just have one, yeah, others they got none. Stay with me, oh, let's just breathe. practiced all my sins, never gonna let me win. Under everything, just another human being. Yeah, I don't wanna hurt. There's so much in this world to make me bleed. Stay with me, oh, all I see. Did I say that I need you? Did I say that I want you? Or if I didn't, I'm a fool, you see. No one knows this more than me. As I come clean, I wonder every day as I look upon your face. Everything you gave and nothing you would take. Nothing you would take. Everything you gave. Did I say that I need you? Oh, did I say that I want you? Oh, if I didn't, I'm a fool, you see. No one knows this more than me. As I come cleaner. Nothing you would take, everything you gave. Oh, hold me till I die, meet you on the other side.